Howdy, y'all. Benny from Benyakin here. So today I wanted to actually talk to you a little bit about the Suspenz cart. This is for kayaks and/or canoes. So I purchased this thing a little while back. I've got an Old Town canoe. It's a 15-foot, 8-inch canoe weighing approximately 90 pounds. So unfortunately, we would have to park pretty far away from our launch points and needed a more viable option. This is great in the sense that you can collapse it. It is easily easy to collapse and to take with you. However, some of the downsides, it is a little bit on the big and bulky side, and I was unable to store it easily on my kayak. As such, if you'll turn here, this was what I ended up creating for my Perception Pescador 10-foot kayak that I purchased over at Academy. So very quickly, this is of course in the stowage position. I can easily remove it. We'll take it over here. All right. So what I did, I just removed a little cotter pin. I've got my hex nut washer, 7-inch wheel that I purchased over at Tractor Supply, another 1/2-inch washer, and then I can take it out of the storage. So in order to make this actually functional, I just need to run this through these holes that I've got drilled here. So that's locked in place. I only have to do it one side at a time. Replace my washer. Put the other wheel on. Washer, nut, my little hitch pin, got it set. Now from here I'm using an 8-foot Husky strap. I've got this looped through itself here. It's going under the milk crate, back through, and then back onto the other side where I have it running out to go up and over, and the kayak will be resting on here. Pretty simply put, lift up the kayak, kind of just slide it under, get it kind of in place. Make sure that it's resting nice and flat on those edges. You might have to do a little shuffle. Go up and over. Running back through itself. And this baby's good to go. Simple as that. So if you'd like a more in-depth explanation as to how I created this cart, stick around and I'll show you all the tools and pieces involved to create this. Howdy y'all, Benny from Benyakin here. So today I'm going to do a step-by-step on how to make this DIY kayak cart. So if you want to take a look right over here, let's go ahead and put this bad boy away and get started. So over here you'll see that I'm going to start out with, of course, the milk cart. I picked up these 7-inch plastic wheels over at Lowe's that we can be using later on. This rod was initially, it's a 1/2-inch by 13-inch rod. It's coarse threading. It was originally 36 inches, but I actually cut it for my first project, which is right over there. So you'll definitely need one of these. I'd recommend 4 of these washers like this. Nice big flat washers. Got the hex nuts. You need 3 of them. Yes, that is correct. 3. And then I use a hitch pin. I'm using 6 fairly long zip ties. And then an 8-foot Husky lashing strap. I picked this up over at Lowe's. Lastly, I've got this this insulation here. This usually goes for plumbing insulation, but it actually splits open, and so I'll be using that later on for the edges on the box to hold it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing, you need to decide where you want to initially put the rod. So because I've already measured it out, I know that I need 3 inches of clearance on each side. This is 12 inches across. So quick little rundown on the tools that I've got. Over here, safety glasses, these are a must. You need some permanent markers. Got my handy drill with a quick swap. Just get a bit. This is a 1/8 inch bit. This is a 9/16, so this is what I'm going to be using to actually bore the hole. It's a little bit tighter. If you want it a little bit looser engagement, you could do something like a 5/8. Tape measure, of course. Some kind of clamp, a vise, something of that nature. You can use a hacksaw for the metal whenever I initially cut the rod. If you've got a reciprocating saw, that's a heck of a lot easier, and I would recommend that. I'm using this 3/4 inch wrench for the hexes to tighten them onto themselves. I'm going to be making some jam nuts. And then here, a pair of scissors. Go ahead and get prepped. Save your trip to the emergency room. All right, first things first. We need to kind of initiate where we're going to put this rod. So because it's already cut to length, I know that I've got enough on each side that I can stack both the nuts, washers, and these wheels, and it'll stick out 3 inches, as I did for my previous project. So on mine, you can do this 2 different ways. You could bore your holes here in the corners and all the way through, or you could even go through the center, right in the middle. For this particular kayak project, I'm actually going to be boring holes right through here. What I discovered doing it the first time, you've got to pilot the hole. If you don't do so, getting this guy in there, it tends to move around a little bit on you. And so your hole may not end up in the exact spot where you want it. And because I don't have to be super precise, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold this thing up here, kind of eyeball it, understand where the center point is, and drill my first hole. Do the same on the corresponding side. Get a good idea about where you want it. Okay, pilot's done. Quick swap, 9/16. Lots of flying plastic. Again, safety glasses. So there's our first hole right here, as you can see. Go ahead and make this other one. Clean it up, rip a little bit of the stuff off. Okay, for this one, I'm going to need a little bit of a razor. Alright, so just clean up the excess plastic. Doesn't have to be perfect, but, you know, clean it up. There you go, one more tool to add. Alright, so our holes have been created. Let's go ahead and test it, make sure it's a nice snug fit. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of play in there for our axle. And I've got about 3 inches on each side ready to go. So first step, I'm going to take my washer. Okay, one washer. Get the wheel, okay? Notice how they're offset. You want to make sure that you put this end towards the cart. Second washer. Get this thing screwed on. Now on this side, I'm going to create a jam nut because this is the first wheel that I'm putting on. So I'm going to take my second nut, put it on there again. It's a 1/2 inch nut. Go just to the point, the end of the axle, back the other one towards it. So what's going to happen, I'm going to take my wrenches, 3/4 inch wrench, okay. The one on the inside, closest to the wheel, I'm going to be backing off. At the same time, I'm going to counter turn this guy on the outside to lock it in towards the other one. So these are going in opposite directions. This one this way, this one this way. Get them tight. Now you can't remove it by hand, so I'd only be able to use tools in order to take it off at a later point. This keeps you from losing the nut and having the wheel come off. For the other side, washer, just as before. Grab our 7-inch plastic wheel. Make sure the spacer is set correctly. The other washer. And then tighten this guy down all the way. If you notice that you have any excess, depending on the wheels that you purchased, you can, of course, lop that off to length and or make it easier to fit in your kayak for your purposes. Okay, you see it rolls nicely. So instead of using another jam nut, because I want to be able to take this off and attach it up here, all I have is a little cotter pin, a little hitch pin. So I'm going to take this guy here. First time through, it's going to be really, really difficult to get this on. What I found is that coming in from the back side and then pulling made it a heck of a lot easier. You could even use a pair of pliers or something just to kind of get it initially stretched out. All right, now that is locked and in place. So this is not going to come off without my wanting it to. So that's basically how you get the gist of it going. If you want to add your other little accessories, so this guy here, I ended up cutting earlier, piece of PVC pipe at 13 inches across using a little hacksaw here, and then these things here. So take 2 of your zip ties onto the outside, zip tie them in place. These are just holders. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be pretty. All right, so now we have our storage location for our pins set up right here. So I can quickly disassemble the hardware, pull the wheel off and the washer, remove the axle, and there's my storage. So now it'll sit nicely in the bottom of the kayak. Reverse the process. Let's get our washers back in place just to kind of hold them. Get it all set. And of course replace the hitch pin. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, shows you where how that'll sit in. So for this, depending on your kayak, you may need to either cut right here if it's got more of a V-hull, or you could simply add extra foam along the side. I kind of just eyeballed it and then cut it to length. It's split. You just tuck it in and then use your zip ties to just hold it in place. Okay, repeat the process on the other side. Hey, made in Canada, what do you know? Get the zip ties back in place, same as the other side. Okay, last little feature. So basically with this section, what I ended up doing to keep this in place, I ended up running this little strap. Just got the little clasp that runs through itself. I ran it through right here and then back out, and then it's going back through itself. Don't go through where it grabs, go through below it. Okay, that keeps it secure, nice and tight, and it won't scuff up your kayak. Run this under the bottom. You could add zip ties at the bottom to hold it in place as you'd like. I go through that same hole on the other side. I'm going to go in and then back out. I'm going to weave it. And here's your strap so you can throw it over your kayak and then back onto itself. Alrighty, well, there you have it, folks. This is your Benny Atkins version of the DIY kayak cart hauler.